Fan Expo, he was the 300th issue of Spawn.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And I was at my table, and the people lining up to get this thing they put them behind our tables in the access corridor all the way down around the whole building to get to his table. It was unbelievable, the lineup.
Wow.
Yeah. Super I never even saw him there.
Do you dream about those kind of lines, Todd?
I've been in those. I mean,
he just photoshops them in.
You've been in those lines.
I've been in those lines.
Okay, cool.
I don't dream about. You mean dream about having somebody line up like that
for
me?
you?
No, that's never gonna happen.
Come on, man. I'd line up for you like that.
Well, I mean, you know, as a member of the NERDWatch.
As long as I was first in line, I'd be okay with that. Anyway, we were having some live technical difficulties, but we are now back.
I.e., the show wasn't on Facebook.
Yes, we're good.
She's saying.
Oh yeah, I know. We got it. I just got us right back up, so I think we're okay. So I think we're good. Anyway, this week, ladies and gentlemen, the man who is Alika has got some special news.
The man who is Alika.
Yeah, that's right. He's got some special news because today marks.
Sounds like a golden book.
Today marks the return. Is it back? Yeah, it is.
It looks like it
is.
is.
So today marks the return, ladies and gentlemen, of the comic book list. I am so excited.
No, it doesn't.
No?
He flat out said next week.
I had all kinds of music and everything for
it. We're
comic book list.
I miss when we didn't have gimmicky music and sound effects.
Same.
You guys are terrible people.
Diamond Distribution are overlords.
Wonderful.
They still have held the shipment. This is the third week. But next week, we will be getting a shipment, and supposedly, I've been speaking with the reps, and they've been talking with the warehouse. I'm not allowed to talk directly to the warehouse. They get very mad when I ask.
Why?
I don't know.
He uses a lot of expletives.
Yeah. I'm like tossing racial slurs for no reason. They're like, you don't even know what they look
really
like, sir.
disparaging remarks about their sexual orientation.
I'm just assuming at that point, just to be mean.
Wow. All right, fair enough.
But, you know, they finally released my shipment. We worked something out. I cut off a few fingers and traded them some blood
You're
money.
lying. I can see your fingers right now.
I have other fingers,
He
man.
didn't say that they were his fingers.
Oh.
But
I'm picturing Larry Drake and Darkman with
it's
his
like a
cigarette
Lebowski
thing.
So, we're getting a
Darkman.
shipment next week, and it's supposed to have all the stuff that we didn't get in it.
Dude, you're going to make so much money when you get all those shipments in. There's what,
you think everybody's going to come pick up their subscriptions?
I am.
At the same time?
I've been waiting for all that stuff last
I would
2 weeks.
love it if people picked up their subscriptions when they came in next week.
I
so
guarantee you I will.
do,
I guarantee you I will.
because it's going to be a lot.
Wait a minute.
Why do I think you're lying?
Everybody's gone and bought toilet paper instead.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
What a way for if
Those
they run
people
out
are
of toilet
stupid.
paper.
Buy things you need, like comics.
No, they print comics on glossy. You can't use that as toilet paper anymore.
Dang.
You can, but it's not going to feel good.
It doesn't feel
It's
good.
going to be
Okay, fair
hard.
enough.
Rough time.
It doesn't feel bad.
Don't do it.
Does it, Todd? It doesn't feel bad?
with his.
Oh, okay. Oh, that is so awful.
And they're black and white, so.
So, in that time, though, something that's supposedly in this shipment, and I'm going to make the announcement here. I apologize.
What?
But Batman 89 is supposed to be in that shipment, the
tell
first
them.
printing.
Whoa,
and
whoa,
I'm just
whoa. Can I
saying
have
this.
one?
I'm just saying this because this is a kind of a conversation.
Wait,
you know.
aren't you the man that said speculators killed comics?
Well, they're a good investment. You don't need to speculate to invest. You know what I mean? Speculation is like a different force in comics that isn't necessarily healthy. Like Punchline, the first appearance of Punchline is a speculator's thing. This is not an organic sidekick to Joker like Harley Quinn, created by Bruce Timm for the animated series, given free reign. Paul Dini created and Bruce Timm designed. Dini, whatever you. Come on.
And it's not even a first full appearance. She's in one panel.
Oh, wow.
You don't even really. I don't even know if she speaks in the one panel.
You're talking about
in.
Batman Adventures 12.
Wow.
But
Is
there's a couple other comics after that where like the Winter Special and she appears fully. Aside from that though,
Full frontal.
Fully clothed?
Full frontal.
Oh.
because people are going crazy. They're comparing her to Harley Quinn. It's like, oh, the next Harley Quinn.
No.
But this is like a clearly soulless, heartless cat. It's not.
There's actually two characters that get first appearance out of that book, though.
Who's the other one?
The designer.
Okay.
But nobody's making a big deal about him because girl.
Yeah.
And so they're equating her with Harley Quinn. The first Harley Quinn, of course, is like a $500 book. But the difference being that Harley Quinn, the fans brought her to the fore. You know, she was a cartoon character. She didn't have to gain popularity like she did. She didn't have to gain legitimacy and cross over into the actual
So are they trying to do
comic
the same thing
canon.
with Punchline? Is that what you're trying to say?
She's starting in the comics. She's not.
Okay.
First of all, it's a very, very different creation process. You know, Punchline, they have a mind for her being the Joker sidekick. It's not a cartoon situation where they have that kind of.
I've always had a question about Harley Quinn's popularity.
You can tell it's only because Harley Quinn exists does Punchline get created.
As a comic book, I guess, as a comic book purist, is it?
Are you talking about you?
Yeah. Well, obviously myself.
I think he's being
on that.
hypothetical
You
right
can't
now.
even spell comic book. Don't
Right,
worry
right,
about it.
right. As a comic book purist, is it not okay? I mean, because Harley doesn't come from the comics, so are we supposed
course
to be
it's okay.
Oh, I'm just asking. I didn't know.
Here's another great example where like it's just the fans kind of demand it, and then it happens, and the right creator is behind it. Where Miles Morales is created just because it started as a viral Donald Glover joking about him being cast as Spider-Man, and then here comes Brian Bendis and Sarah Pacelli, and create Miles Morales, and he's in the Ultimates universe again, a low stakes, not canon, not Marvel 616 universe where they kind of have free reign. They could torch that universe if they wanted to. At the time, nobody thought that universe would have consequence, and some of the characters that were in that universe gained so much popularity that they decided, to fold it back in. And Miles Morales is probably, one of the most popular characters right now for Marvel. One of my favorite.
I'd like
personally.
to put a pin in this conversation very
Sure.
quickly
Why?
because Jimmy J just entered the discussion.
Uh-huh.
I want to make it clear, Jimmy J, that's G Money. This is Gannon.
Okay, there it is. I knew
And
it.
that's Todd.
That's
I just want to make clear.
Did he call Todd G Money too?
Yes!
That is G Money. This guy here is G Money.
Hey,
This
Jimmy
guy
J.
here
of course,
is not
is the
G-Money.
organizer and promoter of the Amazing
I
Comic Con.
just want to make that clear while he's paying attention.
Okay, sweet.
He's
all
not,
right.
he's not watching anymore.
he
He
left.
tuned out. He's like, screw these guys.
Screw these
He's like,
guys.
Gannon's about to call me out. I'm tuning out right now.
Anyway,
I was so angry.
so
you don't even know.
I get you're secretly flattered. Anyway,
Oh man.
Secretly fatter?
so- yeah, and that too. So is this book is are we
It's a
are
big
we
speculator book, and that's what I'm
That's what I'm
saying
saying.
is people are specking before they even know who this character is, before they've seen her in action, before they've even had a fan reaction.
There's already cosplayers.
They're
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big. I
I took a
to-do.
photo of one at Amazing Con.
Cosplay of what?
I missed that photo.
Punchline.
Punchline.
This is what happens when you leave the show.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
Mr. Producer.
Hey, he was producing. He was trying to help.
But you don't know how this character is going to land. You don't know the execution. It
She
could
could
be
suck.
like, yeah, she could suck.
She could suck hard.
You
We,
know.
we don't even know what nationality she is. She looks like she's drawn Asian, but we have no idea.
By the way, I thought a speculator was a gynecological tool.
No.
Can you stop that?
Oh.
That's a speculum.
Oh.
That's a speculation.
No,
okay.
don't help him.
I have 3 of them. You want
Stop.
Oh, good.
This.
one? I have one pre-owned. I'll sell it to you cheap.
Sometimes it's better to turn the pages with a speculum.
Speaking of yes.
That's Punchline, yes.
Speaking of that, talk about controversy. Since we're talking comics, CGC was on fire on Facebook.
On fire.
Yes, they were put on blast for the way
they did a video of
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
brought into a convention. What convention was that, by the way?
It was C2E2.
No, it happened before C2E2.
That's a
No,
droid.
It was C2E2.
So at the CGC booth, somebody brought a copy of Superman #1. It was a rough shaped copy. It was probably like a 3 or whatever at best. I think the spine was taped, so it's more
that
like a 2.0.
son of a.
But
He was
No.
thumbing through it
it doesn't matter.
like a 3-year-old.
I think
One of the
I think
coupons
what-
was cut out of the page.
Yeah, I think what you guys are. It looks like he was doing it fast and rough, but an experienced comic handler will know that what he was doing the least amount of damage while inspecting the book. People have touched that book, but that's aside from the point. It's been a well-read book, but if you look at where his hand actually makes contact with the book and how long he has it, and he's flipping through the pages, not usually if the untrained person handles a comic and they use their thumb to flip through the pages
Yes.
and bend the book and whatever, there's a thumb mark. It happens.
Right.
I mean, that's a common flaw in comic books. Like
Yeah,
when
so
we
he
go to
put a
send
ton of
for-
them on the whole
No,
book,
he
bro.
didn't.
Did you see the outtakes from that?
I missed it.
Where he
no.
rolled it up and put it in his back pocket?
What the fuck? By the way, this defense of this atrocious act is
Because
doesn't happen to be a
but
guy
what
that
they
actually
get-
Why
is a
do you
CGC.
care this
Let me
much?
tell
Is
you
what I
this.
want to know.
Aren't you a
I'll tell you-
CGC graded guy? Don't
No,
you?
he's not.
I'm a CGC dealer.
Thank you.
But the CGC dealers
Uh-huh.
base their grading process on the Overstreet Price Guide, for which I'm an advisor, who my mentor was Bruce Ellsworth.
Sounds
III.
so conspiratorial at this
No,
point.
and so Bruce Ellsworth is actually one of the people who convened in this group of collectors in the 70s and 80s to create the Overstreet Price Guide
This
grading
comic
process.
book cabal.
Yeah, all of these pedigreed collection
That's
finding
hilarious.
people
I
like
thought
Chuck
that guy's in Mortal
Rosansky and,
Kombat.
They said that the gloves actually could hurt.
could damage the book
damage
because
the book.
without your fingertips are like very sensory. You can feel with them. You don't like if you have gloves. You can't tell if a page is sticking to the latex or
Thank
whatever.
God.
It's not a good idea.
All right.
Or if you have cotton gloves, the thread
But
will
wasn't he
get
doing
caught
it
on
kind of
something.
fast?
That's the point. You
don't want to do it slow.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take
Really,
your time, there's
Well,
a
you
way
got-
to do it too.
All right.
But you can't.
He had really good technique.
All right.
The way they do it, it doesn't damage the book.
Okay,
and
so then
the
why
reason
was
I'm telling you
everybody
this
was
is,
pissed
so
off
I
about
went
it
to go
then?
I went to go look at a very nice collection this weekend.
Uh-huh.
Actually, this guy had a lot of key issues, and when I go to look at a collection, I do the same thing. I remove it from the sleeve. I ask permission, of course. I look through it to make sure it's complete. I show them the flaws that I'm finding as I'm going through it.
Were any Isherwood's books in that collection?
Yeah, there was.
What
I
the-
actually told him. I pulled out.
What?
There was a Doctor Strange, and I was like, "Do you know
See?
this guy's on island right now?"
Wow. See,
Wait,
Jeff?
you
He's
told
like, "I'm
him
gonna
I have
hunt
a-
him down."
I have one little thing about.
CGC graders and the way they grade their books.
Yeah. Well, this is
Yeah.
what happened.
All right, sweet.
Guy has one of these blank covers. He wants me to do a drawing, right?
Mm.
So he says, "Can you send me a picture of the blank comic you're doing to make sure it's in really prime condition?" And I said, "It is now, but I haven't drawn on it yet."
Jeff. You're,
So let me respond because Jimmy J just brought something back to the Harley Quinn debate.
Oh, yes.
He goes, there was a character, Joker's daughter, in the 70s called Harley Quinn in the Teen Titans. Yeah.
All right.
But
Yeah, you can buy her book for like $5.
Yeah, I
Wow.
still think that's enough of
Are
a
you serious?
vacuum.
I don't know.
Oh.
Like that's kind of like how on an episode of Droids for Star Wars there was a space pirate called Kylo Ren. Nobody thinks that's the
Yeah.
inspiration for Kylo Ren.
Right.
I don't think Harley Quinn. has
So
much
I
to
have
do
a
with that.
question. At cons, is it one of the things that's important to have a CGC grader at a con or no? Or?
Yeah, it is. I mean, so people are collectors nowadays. They want to slab their stuff. They want to see what it's going to get.
Right.
You know, how it's going to do.
Right.
They like to slab their stuff.
They like to slab their stuff. Condition
Oh,
matters.
yeah.
You know, to a collector, condition matters. You know. Yeah, there's not much more to say.
So
about
hang
that.
on. So hang on a minute. When you CGC grade that thing, you stick a value on that, right? Now, knowing that it's gone
Well,
through the CGC process, okay, just out of curiosity for myself, total curiosity, does that mean once it's CGC graded that it actually goes up in value because it has been CGC graded, or does it stay at its current value?
Huh?
Okay.
No. So basically, it's called the comic guarantee. You know,
Yeah.
or whatever the comic guarantee company or whatever.
Right.
They certify the grade. It's a
Yes.
third party that you could basically insure the book for it because so, when you're dealing with raw books,
Right.
both the seller and the buyer have to be confident in the grade to agree upon a value.
Right.
Or at least come to an agreement on a value that makes sense to them on the grades that they're both perceiving. Maybe they have different opinions. It can be very subjective. But when a third party grades it, it takes it off of both people's hands, and you can get a lot more money for something that's CGC graded because both parties are more confident in the value.
Got it. So you, as a comic book guy, you're part of CGC. You don't grade them, but you
I'm
can
not-
send them to
I'm
the
not
graders.
part of CGC. I'm a dealer, so I'm authorized to accept submissions and submit for my customers.
Wow, that's interesting. All right, wow.
But I can't. I haven't trained to grade in person or anything. I'm just saying I learned how to grade from my mentor, Bruce
He
Ellsworth.
really wants to get a hold of my Walking Dead #1. I
yeah, I'm
know he
sure
does.
it does. Yeah.
Ever since I found it, I know he's been salivating.
Well,
He would cry right now if he saw how I was keeping
Yeah.
that.
I don't even want to think about it.
well, I tell you what.
It's
so,
in my bathroom right now.
We have nothing but bad words about Diamond. Glad you're getting your comics. Glad you're getting your comics back finally for the people. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
But damn Diamond, damn them all to. Am I supposed to be
But
upset?
what was the holdup?
I mean, So usually we'll fall behind on invoices, right? They send out an invoice a week before we get those comics, and they usually bill for when we get those comics, right? So we're already a week behind. But their policy is once you fall 3 weeks behind, they put a hold on your account.
Oh.
It used to be that the hold was you just couldn't order things. And that's difficult enough for a store. Like if somebody needs a back issue or some supplies or something, they wouldn't hold up the shipment though, and they would always work with me. We would figure out a way. I've been dealing with them for 5 years, but all of a sudden they've gotten really strict about it. And so I think they're just trying to choke out the last of the really small stores. We saw through the leak that there's a lot of stores that Diamond services.
Right.
But the majority of their income comes through only some very large retailers. The smaller stores probably cost them money to deal with. And I complain about how much I'm paying for comics and this and that. I think the well is running dry for comics, and I think Diamond has not. I don't think enough people are blaming Diamond for their role in that. Comics used to be ubiquitous. They used to be everywhere.
Not anymore.
And there were multiple distributors, and you could get one walking into a grocery store, and the competition was good. That was a healthy, thriving environment for comic stores to exist. There were 5 on Maui alone. You know what I mean?
I used to get comics at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and that was at a time where you could get them at 7-Eleven anyways, but there were still 5 comic stores that made it work.
There
Now-
were 5 stores here?
Yeah. There was the Wharf in Lahaina. The
Oh,
stamp store
yeah.
had
I didn't think of
comics.
that. It was Complete Comics.
There was the Laundromat one by Toyota.
Yeah.
That one. There was Complete Comics, of course. There was Joe's Bookstop
Corner.
and Annie's bookstore right here.
Wow, I forgot about
There
all those.
was, yeah.
Wow.
Well, what's interesting to me is that do they not know that you have heavy hitters in your store like Jeff Isherwood
Or the
and,
NERDWatch.
and Stan
I
Lee?
think they don't.
Bob Kane?
I think they look too much at the production and retail side of it because
Oh.
they're just a company that's trying to churn out a product, and it blindsides them to the actual environment that comics can thrive in. Where you want to support a local comic store. If Maui doesn't have Maui Comics, there's no comic store. And I lived on Maui when there was 10 years of no comic store. It sucked. You know, you got to... And stores and retailers, Barnes & Noble's still had singles. They don't anymore, by the way. So if we go out,
If you want
there's no
Marvel
new comics
1000,
anywhere.
they do. They got
Yeah,
lots
that's,
of those still.
yeah, that's about it. So it becomes like a comics desert unless you are really dedicated to comics and you start ordering them online, which some people do. Some people did, like I did that when there was no store.
Could this possibly
But a community needs a comic store because that's how the more casual you can be about enjoying something, the more people are likely to do it. It's obvious. And Diamond needs to start fostering an environment where that's possible, where people who don't even sell comics feel comfortable ordering from them and having a spinner rack at Minute Stop. You know, I wouldn't see that as competition and be like, ooh, they better stop that. I'm like, the more people who can buy comics, the more people who are reading comics.
I don't think it's here's my take on it. I think that it's not just Diamond. I think it's all of the mass amounts of publications that get put out there and the pressure to get them out of the warehouses as well. I think that has a lot to do with it too. Don't you think?
I don't think they're doing a good job, though. That's what I'm saying. Is there's a better way to get these comics, and it starts with realizing that the retailers are the customer. I'm the customer. I'm buying these comics, they're not treating me like a customer. You know what I mean? They're treating me like a franchisee. They're telling me all these rules and stuff. They're affecting my business with their policies. They're impacting me negatively without any thought of the repercussions of what if Maui, it's a whole county, and you know, just to make the metaphor even more clear, we're an actual island, so nobody can just drive to Oahu and get comics. If I close, that's it for Maui, and there's no new comics anymore. I know people are like, big whoop, it's a luxury item, who cares? But it matters to the community and people who appreciate the art and appreciate collecting and just like to have physical comics around and keep up with current stuff without having to mail order them, you know?
Matters to me, God damn it.
It's still real to me.
All right, that's the name of the podcast right there.
God damn it.
No, it matters to me.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the point, it's very exciting that your comics are coming back next week. You will have a list at that time, yes?
Yeah, so hopefully next week I'll have an invoice to read off of. Jimmy J in the chat asked a question that's related.
Yes.
Does MauiCon bring more people in to buy actual comic books? Yes. Yeah, it does. I mean, it works. It's such, it's hard to speak in the language of capitalism where you look at the action and the benefit and whatever you get from it. Because when you're talking about community, it's all feeds itself. Like, kids who have their first experience with a comic in Maui Comics, they learn about Maui Comic-Con maybe from our store, and you know, they end up going to the convention and realizing that art is cool and they want to pursue it or at least enjoy it. Or or they go to Maui Comic-Con because it's free, and they realize that the medium of comics has a lot of importance to them. Maybe they like cartoons and animation, which is it's all cartooning. Comics is cartooning, right? So, and so they realize that they have a love and passion for that, and it all feeds itself.
I think another big part is just also getting a chance to meet some of the creative people who are real people.
That's a huge part of it.
It's like if you have a favorite sports team and you get to meet a couple of the players or something, it just solidifies your support for that team.
True,
and you get to know them a little bit, and it's more of a personal thing. And the comics is like that too, because of course when I was young, there were hardly ever any conventions. But when I was able to meet, say, John Buscema when I was 17 or something, that had a huge impact on me.
That's interesting.
And it was one of these shows. I just happened to remember he was appearing, and I stood beside his table for about 2 hours. I don't remember anything else that was going on anywhere in that building.
That's awesome. I can just picture that in your kid's mind, just watching him.
Yeah, and I was
Did he call you kid?
No, but I do remember the one thing he said.
Yeah, what did he say?
I said, "So what's the best way to get into comics?" And he goes, "Pick your favorite artist and swipe his style."
Why is it that everyone says that? Somebody said that, and then
it's good advice,
a lot of comics.
It's really good advice.
People say that.
And more time went by, and more I realized he was right.
So you stole Buscema style. I got it. All right.
That's how Bill Sienkiewicz got in. He was like, he got in because he drew just like Neil Adams.
He could do Adams, yeah.
And then Neil Adams was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna call the guys at Marvel or DC." Like I think he went around town. He went to DC first. DC called Neil Adams. Neil Adams called Marvel, and then he got his first work at Marvel or something.
Todd,
like that.
Maybe you should start appropriating Jim Lee's work.
Speaking of things that somebody should do, Jimmy J says that you should open your wallet and actually spend money.
Well, here's the thing: is that Comic-Con for me, Maui Comic-Con?
Of the people on this table, who buys comics from Malika?
You come for the comics, but you stay for the host. So that's the great thing about Maui.
Let's answer the question.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Of the people at this table, who actually buys comics from Malika?
Okay, here's the thing: I used to buy comics a lot. I don't buy comics anymore.
From me.
Not from him. Not from Malika.
You get them from Amazon?
No, I don't get my comics from Amazon. But you know what?
You get them digitally.
He buys them at garage sales.
Yeah.
Still valid.
You steal them from the library.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think.
Remember the books on audio thing?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Someone read it to me.
Plus, on top of that,
A comic would be the worst thing to read in Audible.
I know. And so this guy, he's holding a thing.
And then Superman flies up carrying a car over his head.
There's some whooshy lines.
And then bam. He hits General Zod upside his face.
Shut up.
You're telling Jimmy J to shut up.
I know. Well, listen, I don't buy comics because.
By the way, that is G Money.
All right.
Jimmy J.
But I guess the main point that we wanted to talk about was that comics are a great medium, and society benefits from it when they thrive. In the 30s and 40s, when America was crazy literate, they read a lot. That was the primary function for entertainment. Was they read.
It was the only thing you could get in color.
Kids had comics. It was like that was it.
Can I?
And the demand and the love of comics birthed the animation industry. We got animated things from the fact that we knew that there was legions of comic fans out there. That's when comics were sold in the millions. That's when actual capitalists could get into the comics game and make money.
I'm with you.
That was now they're bleeding a stone. And Steve Geppi, I mean, there's a reckoning coming. It's gonna change.
Who's Steve Geppi, for those that don't know?
He's the owner of Diamond Distribution.
Thank you.
He beat out all the competition. He won. You know the game of capitalism. You know Monopoly. He won. It's over. Steve Geppi wins.
Am I supposed to be a?
No, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be like Tuesday music.
Every time Greg picks that mic up, I'm waiting for him to start singing Sinatra.
I could.
He's got a beautiful singing voice.
But by the way,
very hateful speech, but great.
Can I say this? A week ago when we had on Aaron.
Yeah.
You knew the death of comics was coming when he's only read 2 books.
No, that's the death of American society. That's something different.
Oh, okay. All right. And those 2 books were irrelevant. They were irrelevant books.
Based on how he writes, I'm not surprised those are the only 2 books he's actually read.
He read the novelization for Speed 2.
Yes.
And Michael J. Fox's autobiography.
Yes.
Based on the stuff he writes, he does need to read more.
We were talking about Kurt Vonnegut, And we were also talking about...
Me and Todd are actually literate.
Yeah, so we were talking about Kurt Vonnegut. I
Whoa,
was talking about
don't
Mishner.
discount me.
So
You just weren't here.
Yeah, you weren't here.
For a minute there, I was like, we're the only two people that know how to
Everybody at
read.
this table's literate.
Yes,
I'm just saying that me
absolutely.
and Todd were talking
Except
about
Kai.
those certain books.
I read.
I just have a question about.
Sure.
Okay, the direct sales market was terrific in a boom market.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when things started to go, returnable comics meant they stayed on the shelves longer so casual readers could find them. Because your sell-through has to be at well over like at least 90% to break even, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now
Yep.
the trade paperbacks are what I see have taken over. And just as a little side, had a couple of conventions in France last July, and the old Tintin and all the French and the Belgian comics,
Yeah.
they are being supplanted by now the Marvel and DC, especially the trades.
I see it, yeah.
It's amazing.
You see the impact because of the internet, and there's a lot of comics groups. So a lot of these European and other countries like Africa, and they're starting to interact with American chat groups, and our comics are spreading like a disease
Yeah, and what's happened
throughout the
is-
world.
Yeah.
They used to be too good for them. They'd
But-
read
Yeah.
asterisks and they'd
But
be
to-
like, "Ooh."
To be fair, isn't that one of our
What is-
greatest
Let's start our own
exports?
distributor and call it Corona Comics.
Our greatest
There you go.
isn't our greatest export our pop culture? I mean, from America, our greatest
Yeah,
export is
yeah.
our pop
Well,
culture, right?
greatest.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Greatest.
Depends what
We
sleeve.
hope so.
Yeah, some of
but-
it.
but the-
Not
No,
recently.
it has the
But-
greatest influence.
Yeah, but part of the real problem, though, now for the creative people there, and I was looking into perhaps doing some work there, and they said, don't get involved because what happens is they'll sign you to a contract, and all of a sudden, well, things aren't looking so good, and they just buy you out for next to nothing, and people are dropping left, right, and center. The old time, all these creators have been working for decades, are just realizing they're on the sidelines now because everybody just wants Wolverine and what have you. The latest
Yeah.
Harley Quinn and whatever. That's
That's how it is.
it's
You want
it's
something
all
you
gone
can
that
mass
way.
market. Everything needs to be mass to make money.
And I think that's one of the things about the Hawaii Comic Book Alliance, which is so cool, is that they are willing to kind of buck the trend and do something that is original, local, and
So the Hawaii Comic Book Alliance is the local cadre of
Yeah,
the Hui of
absolutely.
creators and artists and writers and
of guys like
I'm
Sam
sure you're-
Campos.
And you were talking
Yeah.
about something. I don't know if that's supposed to come up yet.
Oh,
was that
that he's a member of Hawaii Comic Book Alliance. Yeah, I know. It really pisses me
Publication
off.
thing.
Oh,
Why is
about Bad Idea Comics?
Yeah.
And so
We talked about that.
No, I wanted to bring that up again because
why?
I actually did talk to them, and if you guys haven't heard the hype, if you Google them real quick, they're a new company that's coming out that they're only starting first. They did a first wave of 20 stores, and now they're trying to sign up to get. I think they're doing 50 and then 200, like a stepped sign up. I just talked to a rep with them. I hope we can work something out and become one of their distributors. But they're very strict. They've got policies in place that are going to ensure that these comics get to readers, that retailers are honorable retailers that are selling these things at cover price, even though there are now only going to be less than 200 stores in the country selling this comic. They're bypassing Diamond and doing the distribution themselves. They're instating prices and policies
That's
to
very punk
favor the retailer. But they have major creators on board, artists and writers, and they've got a killer product that everybody's going to want. And they're only going to be able to get it through the stores. And that does us as an exclusive. And now I'm just hoping that I can make it work. The guy that I spoke with was a very, I just liked his energy, man. Everything he told me about their policies, where when he gives them their spiel about this is what it takes to be a Bad Idea Comics retailer, there's pushback. A lot of them are controversial. Like, for instance, here, I don't even know if I can talk about what their policies are, but
don't, just in case.
Did you
Okay.
sign a contract about
Yeah, I
these
did.
things?
I
Okay,
just
well
did.
then you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, don't.
So, but let's just say it's to protect everybody, and it's difficult to live up to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, you're going to be one of their retailers and very rewarded for
So
it.
how long before you know you're officially on board?
I should know within a week or so.
Okay.
This might be a stupid question, but does Diamond do anything against retailers for having somebody deal direct? I'm imagining
No, they just have. You can't deal direct. You if you were to call
No,
up-
but I mean in regards to these guys. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
have
it's different
exclusivity
labels.
clauses in their contracts. If you distribute through Diamond, you can't go selling out of the trunk of your car. You got to sell through Diamond. That's how it's got to be.
Fascinating.
Their contracts are airtight and favor only Diamond. And so that's whether you're a retailer or if you're a comic publisher. So it doesn't matter who you are, they're squeezing you from both ends. And that's why Diamond is so bad for the industry, because there's only one of them. There's no competition. And it's become this one vein through which all comics must flow. And I don't think they realize the negative impact they are having on the comics market. People say, it's supposed to be illegal to have a monopoly in this country. And you could technically say, well, you can open a comic distributor. That can happen.
It's true.
But you won't be able to sell Marvel or DC because they have an exclusivity contract with Diamond. And then they're like, well, that's just another publisher. You can sell other publishers. That's not a monopoly. But Marvel and DC have such a large part of the market share that it essentially is a monopoly. You can't have a comic store that doesn't sell Marvel or DC.
Hey, pretty soon we may not have DC, so it'll just be Marvel.
You're an idiot.
Well, and a lot of that, people are blaming DC and their management, but what I'm saying is every negative aspect of the comic market today is precipitated by actions and policies created by Diamond. And as soon as you start blaming Diamond, which people are finally turning around and starting to do, then things can get better, because we're, at the retailer summit, which is basically just like the top retailers who pay enough to bitch at Diamond and not get, canned off their distribution network. They can air their grievances. Nothing ever happens, but they're out there. Bleeding Cool covers everything. All the, we're all in commiseration. We're all the same.
But
as
you have,
retailers.
Alika, you have this podcast.
This podcast doesn't reach anywhere. There's like 10 people
This
watching right now.
podcast
Come on.
blows.
Okay, there's 20. There's actually 22 people watching.
Sweet.
Well, after I said that, it's 21. But that's more than usual.
But
Yeah.
back to Bad Idea Comics. I'm very
It's just
excited.
people logging in and logging
I'm
in
very-
and logging
it
in.
says
because
a
They
they're
just have it on the
getting
background while they're
disconnected.
washing dishes.
It
Yeah.
says a lot that a publisher is taking distribution into their own hands because they realize how toxic Diamond has been in creating this environment that forces people to do variant covers in this hollow cash grab BS that fans can see through, and they don't like that. They don't like being sold to. They may open their wallets and they may continue to do it, but if they don't feel good about it, it's not a sustainable model.
So let me ask you something to kind of wrap this up.
Every time I buy comics, I have this, it just feels like I'm just pouring into a useless relationship.
Let me ask, as a consumer, and maybe you can speak on this. As a consumer, why should I care? I'm being no.
It's a good question.
That's a good question.
Because so here's the thing.
I know, but there's so many other ways you could have said
I mean,
that.
as a consumer, like if you don't have a shop to shop at,
that's what I'm
here's
looking
the
for.
thing is essentially the model for Diamond has silenced the consumer. You guys don't have a voice.
Right.
I am the consumer. My customer
You
is
are,
no
yeah.
longer Diamond's customer. The sales
Right.
numbers are all wrong. The sales numbers, as low as they are,
Yeah.
this is the worst the comic industry has ever been. As low as they are,
Even
are
for the
still-
crash?
are still. Yeah. Oh yeah. This
Really?
is the lowest comic sales we've ever had.
Interesting. Okay.
And the reason, and the thing is, they're still overinflated, because I want to say almost half or more of those comics go unsold. They're bought out to, you buy retailers like Midtown buy 500 copies of a comic just to get that 1 in 500 variant. They don't sell those 500 comics. They box them up, they throw them away, they burn them. They don't get sold. Nobody buys those comics. Not a person reads